Hello, everyone, and welcome back to week 3 of UXI-105 Design Technologies. This week, we will cover Adobe Photoshop. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is a replay for everyone that was not able to attend our live session 3 a.m. So if you have not been able to attend the session, please make sure you view this entire recording, and all questions asked during this recording, please make sure to send over to me in a message through Canvas so you can receive your credit. Let's go ahead and get started. So for today's agenda, we are going to discuss a recap of week 2. We're also going to do a course overview. We're also going to touch on week 3 and the requirements for this week, as well as I will provide you with some resources and some reminders. Again, this live session is being recorded and you are able to view this live session. Unfortunately, it did not automatically save, so you will be able to view this live session underneath the YouTube link, which will be provided to you through the announcements. So let's go ahead and get started. So week 2 recap. We previously discussed what the 9 most common file formats are in week 1. And because we are going to use these file formats, reference to these file formats throughout this entire course, it is important that you retain the information. So this is something that I would like for you to send to me. The 9 most common file formats. We will touch on it, but it is important for you to send this information over to me as a requirement in regards to receive your credit for not attending this morning's live session. So the 9 file design file types are Photoshop, which is PSD, SVG, TIFF, EPS, INDD, which is InDesign, JPEG, PNG, AI, which is Adobe Illustrator, and GIF. So the 9 digital design file types are broken down into 2 different file formats. You have your raster and you have your vector. In regards to raster, that considers JPEG, GIF, PNG, TIFF, and PSD. For your vector file formats, that includes AI, which is Adobe Illustrator, INDD, which is Adobe InDesign, EPS, and CVG. Now, this is important for you to remember because throughout using the Adobe applications, you will notice that you have the option to change your color modes, either when you are initially setting up your document or when you're creating your document and you notice that you might want to switch over color modes from RGB to CMYK. So let's discuss the importance for both of these color modes. So RGB stands for red, green, and blue. We'll discuss this even more. So you will use RGB in your design, which is supported for all designs on the screen. Some examples of the best file formats for RGB are JPEGs, PSD, PNG, and GIF. Now, your CMYK color mode is used for anything that is being printed out physically. So it is not on the screen. This is important to know. As far as the design career, it is important for you to know the difference when you are either working for a client or working for a company. It is important because if you are asked to create a design for print, CMYK color mode is what you need to set up your document as or export it as in order to ensure that your document is printed out correctly, because there is a color difference in regards to RGB and CMYK. So to continue with CMYK, PDFs, AIs, and EPS are the best file formats. So we're going to discuss that a little bit more. So in regards to RGB, RGB color mode is used for web and app design, such as icons, buttons, graphics, branding, such as your online logos, online ads, social media, such as your images for posts, profile pictures, and profile backgrounds, as well as visual content. And that can be for videos, digital graphics, infographics, photographs for the web, and also social media and other apps. And so, as you can see, there is JPEG, PNG, PSD, and GIFs. Also, you have your CMYK color mode, which is great for prints. And some examples are branding, again, business cards, stationaries, stickers, signs, and storefronts. Also, you have advertising, billboards, posters, flyers, vehicle wraps, and brochures. You also have your merchandise, which are your t-shirts, hats, other branded clothing, promotional swag. And then you also have your essential materials such as your product packaging and restaurant menus. So now we're going to discuss the 4 different types of logo variations. And this is something that I touched on in your Yellow Dig discussions, as well as provided you some feedback when you submitted your event logo. And this is important to take with you in your design career, because when you are creating logos, you want to have some variations. These variations are helpful in regards to creating different marketing materials. So let's go ahead and discuss the 4 different types. So this week we created a primary logo. So your primary logo is your main logo artwork that is used for printed collateral, such as your letterheads, business cards, and other branded items like packaging and merchandise. Next, you have your secondary logo. Your secondary logo is typically a more streamlined version, and it does lose unnecessary graphic elements, such as you would see the difference in the primary, where it loses the tub and the established date, but it keeps the text. This includes both a horizontal and vertical version with and without a tagline. So it's often used for web navigation, smaller prints, and email signatures. Next, you have your submark logo, which is designed with small spaces in mind, such as your social media icons, stickers, and web navigation. Anywhere the previous version simply would not fit. So your submark designs are simplified versions of your primary logo. And then lastly, we have the favicon, which is the smallest logo iteration, one simple graphic letter or symbol. In this example, it is showing you that they chose to go with the tub as the favicon, and this is because they want to make sure that the favicon is recognizable and cohesive with the primary logo. And this favicon is very small. It is 20 pixels wide or less. It is basically used for your web browser tab for customization. So we're going to move on to the 4 different types of fonts. This is something that I posted in the announcement section. So you can go back and check that out. So let's go ahead and dive in. So there are different types of fonts, but here's a good rule of thumb. Generally, an accepted design practice is to limit yourself to no more than 2 to 3 fonts, and that is when you're creating not just a logo, but also when you're creating other marketing materials such as a banner or flyers. You should aim for consistency and cohesion. And again, I previously mentioned this in the announcement section of some license-free fonts that you're able to use for commercial use. And some of my top 5 font websites are Google Fonts, defont.com, Font Squirrel, Behance, and Dribble. There are other commercial, other license-free font websites that allow you to use for commercial use. However, these are my top 5, and you can go back to the announcement section and you're able to get the links to all of these websites. So let's do a course overview as we always do, and we will continue to do in each live session. We're going to discuss the course project, which is you're going to select an event that is something that you enjoy, which everyone has by now selected an event, and you're going to create multiple items for that event throughout this course. Now, the course project is to focus on marketing your entire event from start to finish and sell your to your client, which we as the uh, everyone in class, we are going to be your viewers for this event. So it is important that throughout this course, we make sure that we understand the file types so that we can export the files correctly. Also, save and organize everything when we set up those folders in the beginning of week 1. And that way we can take all of the marketing material and that you created and save, and we will not only create a presentation, but you'll also use that to create a portfolio and hopefully take that with you in regards to moving on into your design career, promoting yourself, and just have a basis for when it's time to transition into design. Now, what is Adobe Photoshop? So I would like for you to rate your experience in Adobe Photoshop. This is the second thing that you will send over to me. Instead of sending directly in the chat, you will send directly to me through Canvas if this is the replay that you are watching. So 1 being a beginner, 5 being pro. I just want to see where you fall on the scale in regards to your experience in Adobe Photoshop. So let's do a overview of this week, week 3. So this week we will use Adobe Photoshop, the application for working with pixel-based images designed for print, web, and mobile apps. You will learn how to combine multiple images into a new scene for your event materials. Although this is different application, the interface and tools are quite similar to Adobe Illustrator. Now, for the week 3 objectives, we are going to discuss the topic of rasterizing your artwork in Adobe Photoshop, meaning we're going to discuss editing, resizing, and optimizing techniques for web versus print. We're also going to use Adobe Photoshop tools such as the selection tool, spot healing tool, clone stamp, and image mask. We'll also discuss repurposing existing photos to create a new composition, and we will discuss the difference between copyright and fair use in design. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this video here, which will give you an overview of the tools that you will use in Adobe Photoshop.
Photoshop is one of the most professional and complete software to correct and manipulate photos, combine images together, or draw vectors from scratch. You can get it for both Windows and Mac OS with any Creative Cloud subscription plan. When you open Photoshop, its home screen page opens. Here you can pick any existing project you have, browse for any photo with Open on the left, or start with a new Photoshop document with New File. On top, choose the category and then the standard template to use. You can also customize it under Preset Details by changing width, height, orientation, resolution, and color code to use. As you click on Create, the new document opens on the main workspace, showing a big preview on the center, the Tools bar on the left with all the main Photoshop tools, the menu in the Options bar on top to adjust the object or the tool properties, and several panels on the right, collecting useful adjustments and corrections. If you miss any panel, you can reopen it from the Window tab. Whereas, if you need to come back to the home screen page, make sure to click on the Home button in the top left corner. Let's first understand what a Photoshop document is. This is indeed a project file made by independent images, vector graphics, or visual corrections called layers, all listed under the Layers panel on the right. These, edited and put together, realize the final appearance of your document that you export and share. When creating a new document, this is completely white in color with a single layer called background. When opening photos, these are also Photoshop documents with a proper tab on top and an own background layer representing the photo itself. These layers are locked by default and shown in italic style. You can double-click on these to unlock and start editing these as you need. Moreover, you can enable the crop tool to adjust the size of the Photoshop document through its grid. Use the nodes to scale, drag the grid to move it, and click from outside to rotate. If you see any checkerboard areas, these simply represent blank areas completely transparent without any pixel inside. To undo or apply the grid, click on Cancel or Commit above. Now let's see how to deal with images. These are called pixel layers, such as objects whose appearance is rendered by tiny pixels that you can edit with several brushing tools on the left. All you have to do is to select the such layer from the list, enable the right tool, and brush on the preview by clicking and dragging on it. You can hover over any tool to get more tips, and right-click on these to show the complete list of tools when they show a white corner. While editing any layer, make sure to zoom in and out with your mouse wheel while holding down the Alt or the Option key and pan around with the spacebar key. Enable the brush or the pencil tool to draw freehand. Pick the right color from either the color panel on the right or any part of your screen while holding down the Alt or the Option key. From the Options bar, set the brush direction, size, hardness, and its kind between loads of presets available. Remember to use Ctrl or Command and Z to undo any action made. You can also open the History panel to check and go backwards with your actions. With Clone Stamp and Healing Brush, you can correct your photo imperfections professionally. First of all, hold down the Alt or the Option key to fix the reference point and then brush on the image to correct it. The tool drops the same pixels of your image by following the reference point shown as a cross that moves with your cursor. The Clone Stamp drops the exact pixels, whereas the Healing Brush drops the same pixels by matching the colors of the brushed point. You can also use the Spot Healing Brush to correct smaller imperfections with a single click. With the Blur and the Sharpen tools, you can decrease or increase the blurriness level by brushing on the image. Whereas, switch to the Smudge tool to drag pixels towards any specific direction. Enable the Dodge and the Burn tool to increase or decrease the brightness level of the image, highlights, midtones, or shadows. With the Sponge tool, adjust the color intensity, choosing between Saturate and Desaturate mode. Moreover, you can use the Eraser tool to erase pixels from the image. Besides these tools, you can also go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter to apply advanced photo adjustments on the whole image, including basic color correction, color curves, noise reduction, HSL, color grading, and perspective. Check this out. Whereas go to Filter, Neutral Filters to make outstanding photo manipulations such as Landscape Mixer or Colorize to add colors to black and white images. If you can't add these filters, make sure to sign in with your Adobe account and download these features first. With Photoshop, you can also draw vectorized layers, such as geometrical shapes, freehand curves, and pieces of text. In respect with images, these are defined by math algorithms, so they do not lose quality when you resize or edit these. For this reason, vectors remain the best kind of layer to realize drawings from scratch. With the shape tools, you can drop regular shapes and straight lines by clicking and dragging on the preview. You can adjust size, inclination, fill and stroke color, and also line thickness and style from either the options bar on top or the Properties panel. You can also use the Custom Shape tool to drop ready-made shapes, including trees, animals, boats, and flowers. To drop pieces of text, enable the Type tools, selecting between an horizontal or a vertical orientation. At this point, click and drag to define a text box and then type inside, enlarging the box if the text content does not show up entirely. Adjust font family, style, size, distribution, and color from the options bar or the most complete character panel. Just make sure to select any text or these new changes are not applied. Then use Cancel or Commit above to undo or drop the piece of text. On all these vector layers, you cannot apply the brushing tools as seen for the images. You must render these into pixel layers first by either answering to the dialog box or right-clicking on the interested layer and going to Rasterize Layer. Only after this conversion, you can apply the brushing tools, but pay attention that this action is permanent. With the Layers panel, you can manage all the layers within your document. Click on the I button to hide and show each layer, and use the lock buttons above to block specific modifications from the current layer. Whereas, click on the Bin button at the bottom to delete the selected layer. You can also drag any layer up or down to change its position in the list and adjust the order of visibility if multiple layers overlap. In addition, you can right-click on any layer and go to Blending options to apply great effects, including contours, shadow, glow, or color overlays. Check it out. Whereas, go to Edit, Transform to move, scale, rotate, and skew the selected layer, applying all with Commit above. With Photoshop, you can also make selections, such as dashed regions, that delimit limited portions from your entire document. These are very useful to apply brushes and corrections just within such area and allow you to select parts of layers to copy and paste within the same or in another document. For example, if you want to combine multiple photos together. There are several selection tools available. With the Marquee tools, you define rectangular or elliptical shapes by clicking and dragging on the preview. Whereas, enable the Lasso tools to make complex selections completely freehand, polygonal or magnetic to follow color borders. Use the Quick Selection tool to select wide areas that share the same colors, or switch to the newest Object Selection tool to select quickly and fast any defined shape from the rest of the background. There are also the Type Mask tools to type some text whose contour is used to build the selection area around it. Remember that you can remove all selections present with Control or Command-D. With the Adjustments panel on the right, you can apply other corrections on colors, exposure, appearance, and much more. When you click on any, you create an adjustment layer that affects all the layers below it, including all vector layers, without the need to rasterize them. You can double-click on the left side to show the Properties panel and tune its options, and double-click on the right to check the layer mask applied. By default, these adjustments are applied on the whole document with a layer mask completely white. If you create these layers while having any selected region, you apply the corrections just within it, as you can see from the layer mask associated. To save your Photoshop document, go to File and then to Save As. You can save it online with Adobe Cloud as a PSDC file format, or save it in your computer as a PSD format available offline. Whereas to render and export your document as an image, you have to go to File, Save As Copy. You can export as a PDF document, as a JPEG image, or as a PNG image if you want to save transparency as well.
So hopefully that video was very helpful for you to use. Here are some things that you are going to see, and I'm not going to go over it in depth, but we are going to briefly touch on all of these. So let's get started. The image size dialog box. In regards to the image size dialog box, it allows you to change the size of your image, also change the color mode, as well as make adjustments to your resolution. So this is important, and a good rule of thumb again for web, it should be 72 DPI, and then for print, at least 300 DPI. Sorry, I had to put my glasses back on. Also, for the export dialog box, this allows you to save your document in many ways, including preserving layers, preparing for print, and also saving for web page and mobile devices. So next you have your tools panel, and this is something that was previously discussed in the video, so I'm not going to go over that, but it is important for you to know. And there are some down arrows next to each of those tools, and that is important for you to know because you can change out those tools. Those tools have multiple selections, so you can click on that, and say for instance this lasso tool, if you click on the down arrow, it will show you a freehand lasso tool as well as a magnetic tool that would allow you to select parts of an image. And then you have your color picker dialog box, which is great for you to know because it includes your hex colors, your CMYK colors. They have a color slide, your color field, and also your new field and adjustment layer, which is important if you're going to use web colors or you're going to focus on print. Then you have your character panel, and this is very similar to your paragraph panel, which is not shown, but in the video he does reference over to the character panel, and so definitely take advantage of watching the full video. It is very helpful in regards to understanding all the tools and elements that are within Adobe Photoshop, and it also includes understanding the layers panel, which is something that you will see throughout the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. All of the Adobe applications use a layers panel where you can toggle things on and off to view or hide layers. You'll have a background. You can lock or unlock and create smart objects. I will again leave some additional references in the announcement section for you to have, and to have a better understanding of how to use the tools and elements within Adobe Photoshop. So let's dive more into the copyright versus fair use. So copyright versus fair use. Copyright in design is used to protect your original artwork. So basically in the United States, every designer automatically owns the copyright to their original work, except for in work for hire situations. This is something that I learned early in my career working for Howard University, where I signed an NDA, meaning every thing that I created, even if it was an original work, I basically signed the rights over because it is basically saying that Howard owns the rights because I use their programs, I use their equipment, And this is something that you might want to consider when you are working with a client. If you're doing freelance work, sometimes doing some freelance work, you might own the copyright just because you are the original creator. And then sometimes the client might ask you to sign an NDA so that they can own the complete rights. It's up to you on how you want to work with that. But there are ways to work with other designs and incorporate that design. And let's talk more about fair use in design. So in regards to fair use, it allows you to use copyright protected work. It does not allow you to claim the work as your own. However, you are able to use this work, either the design or images, into your work, and you're able to promote that. So let's dive more into this with this upcoming video.
When we go on the internet, it's common to scroll through other people's images, videos, writing, and artwork. We might even want to use them for projects in school or at home. And we might think, I found it online, so it's mine. But that's not the case. We can't treat things we find online like a free-for-all. The good news is that there are legitimate ways to use material we find online. But first, we need to be aware of 3 concepts: copyright, public domain, and fair use. Why is all of this so important? For one, there are legal reasons for protecting everyone's creative work. And there are also ethical reasons to give credit to the people who create the things we see and find online. Let's start with the legal reasons why we should think twice before copying and using someone's work. The first is copyright. Copyright is a legal protection that creators have over the things they create. Copyright requires people to get permission before they copy, paste, alter, or share what someone else has made. Most things that we find, download, and copy and paste from the internet are copyrighted. This means that the people who created them own the content and have a say in how they're used. But that doesn't mean that everything on the internet can't be used. Some creators indicate that their content is okay to be used by others, and other content might fall under what's called public domain. Let's look at what public domain means. When we search for content that's in the public domain, it means these creative works are not copyrighted and are free to use without permission by anyone, however they want. According to US law, some content becomes available as public domain after a certain number of years have passed since its creation. There are also specific images and documents published by the government that are considered public domain. So, when in doubt, search public domain to find a ton of things that are totally free to use. Now, if we want to use a photo, a video, music, or other content that's copyrighted, there are still a few things we can do. We can simply reach out and ask the creator for permission. Many creators are happy to give permission to reproduce their work, as long as they're given credit. The third concept to take advantage of is called fair use. Fair use allows us to use copyrighted work without permission, but only in certain ways and in specific situations. These conditions involve 4 areas to consider: amount, purpose, nature, and effect. First, we can only use a small amount of the original work. This means someone can't copy the whole copyrighted song in their dance video, but they can use a short clip of it. Second, there has to be a new purpose in the project, meaning that we transform the original work into something new and different. Next, it's easier to claim fair use if the nature of the original work is non-fiction or based in fact, rather than creative or fictional. And finally, we need to ask ourselves whether the effect of the new work negatively affects the creator or the value of the original content. For instance, are we charging for or making money off someone else's work? Claiming fair use is determined on a case-by-case basis, but it's more likely acceptable if it's 1. For schoolwork and education, 2. For criticizing or commenting on something, 3. For news reporting, or 4. For comedy or as a parody of something. We can think of fair use kind of like a square, and ask ourselves, is it fair and square? So that's the legal stuff. But let's not forget the ethical considerations when using content found online. Think about it. If you created something original and put it online, wouldn't you want others to give you credit for your work? What if they changed it or made money off it and no one knew you were the original creator? That's just not right. So remember, when we go online in search of things to use, keep these 3 concepts in mind: copyright, public domain, and fair use. We're all creative thinkers and creators, and it's always important to give credit where credit is due.
So hopefully that video gives you more information about how you are able to use certain designs and different elements within your design. So now we're going to jump into this week's task, which is to create a Photoshop banner. So last week you created your event logo. Now you will use Adobe Photoshop to create a composite banner image that promotes your event. A composite image is an image that combines multiple images into one. So the requirement for this week when you're creating your banner in Photoshop is to include at least 3 images into one web banner. Again, 3 images into one web banner. That is the requirement. So let's dive into a video that you will watch and I'm going to show you the first part of the video, and then there's a second part of the video that you'll have to watch on your own. But this video is basically showing you the brainstorming and sketching for your banner.
For this week's video, we're going to want to create a couple sketches for a composite image that we're going to be making as a banner for our event. It'll be basically the primary image that we use to advertise our event. Now, a lot of when you're creating something like this, you'll often have multiple variations, but we're only going to do one. So we'll want to create enough sketches to give us an idea for what we really want to do. I'm going to show you a couple of ideas of what I mean by that, because we don't need anything super comprehensive. We just need to know where everything's going to be so we know what kind of images to look for. Realistically, we're trying to create almost like a planogram of what we're trying to do. So I'll start with, I'll just kind of create a little frame over here. And if this is my image, then I kind of want to show where everything's going to be at. And again, I'm doing a Halloween party or costume contest, and you'll be doing something else. So, or you could do a costume contest if you wanted to, but again, you're trying to stick with the same theme throughout the entire course. So whatever your theme was that you picked in week 1, you want to stay with this same theme. So I'll start over here, and like for my costume contest, I know that I want to have someone wearing a costume, and then probably a background image that's kind of dark and maybe like a dark alley, and then probably some textures like some smoke or something like that that kind of makes it feel a little bit eerie. So if I think about that from a layout perspective and a composition perspective, maybe I want something that's on like a rule of thirds, right? So that's one of our compositions. Another composition would be our spiral. So if we go like this, that would be another composition. So if I'm doing this one, maybe I'll have my person standing over here. And again, these don't need to be super comprehensive. They just need to give you an idea. So I've got a person over here. And then maybe I've got an alley going this way. Maybe it goes this way, actually. And maybe that's kind of a dark alley that has some lights in it, and maybe those lights are kind of like a blue color to make it a little bit creepy. Also, blue is one of those colors that we used in our logo, so that'll be good to use. Another color that we used in our logo is an orange. So maybe we introduce some like orange sparks or something that kind of overlay the image and gives it a little bit of dimensionality and light, because it'll be kind of dark. And then, like I said, maybe some smoke. So that just kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking for here without it being too comprehensive. And again, if we wanted to try a different composition, we can create something different where the focus of the composition kind of comes around, and again, we can add some sparks or maybe even an alleyway. Here, something like that. Can add some sparks and some smoke. So again, it's the same idea, just shown in different ways. That's really what we're looking for here. Just create some composite sketches. We can scan those sketches, bring them into Photoshop, or we can just work from memory. From here, we'll take it into Photoshop and I'll kind of show you around a little bit.
Okay, so I hope that video was useful for you. And now we're going to basically wrap it up, and I'm going to just kind of discuss the type of banner that he ended up creating. So this is the banner here, and he mentioned that he was going to use a person, he was going to use an alley, and also some effects. So it's important to look at this example as a reference when you're creating your banner in Adobe Photoshop. So here are some three things to consider. Does it look realistic? Do the colors, textures, and lighting match? And also be sure to incorporate a person or group of people. And if you have to incorporate people from an image, you will have to remove the old background. So don't worry, I will provide you with additional references and resources on how to remove a background. But there are some copyright-free image websites that are listed here on the left-hand side, where you are able to download these images. Sometimes the images open up as a Photoshop file. Sometimes you're able to get JPEGs, PNGs, SVGs, EPS. So just explore these different websites. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help. And I will see you guys later on today in our next session, where we will discuss Adobe InDesign. So please make sure to attend the live session later on today. It is very important because we do not meet next week, and I want to provide you with enough information so you are comfortable in creating your next piece of marketing material in Adobe InDesign. And with that being said, thank you guys for attending the live session replay, and I will see you later. And if you, again, were not able to attend, make sure to submit those 2 answers to me and 1 takeaway from this entire video, and I will see you guys later. Bye.